The world is a scary place where danger lurks around every corner. These are the incredible true life stories of people who faced their most desperate hour and lived to tell about it. Get ready to experience the thrill of a lifetime. You are about to witness the world's most amazing videos. Phoenix, Arizona. An escaped prisoner is being pursued by the Arizona Highway Patrol. Officer Tim Mason volunteers for the risky assignment of puncturing the suspect's tires. Mason leaves the safety of his patrol car to single-handedly face down the fugitive and his passenger. He throws out a device called a spike strip, which is designed to blow out the suspect's tires and disable the vehicle. The metal spikes pierce the treads, but the desperate driver refuses to stop.
I think deep down inside he knew he was going to jail, but he was going to do everything he could in his power to prevent that from happening.
Officer Mason races ahead and tries again to stop the suspect. But he continues to flee.
773, all his tires are up.
The officer can hardly believe what he sees next. The driver plunges a hypodermic needle into his arm.
Hey, he's going to lose it right here. There he's going. He's going. There he goes. Oh.
Fueled by the powerful stimulant, the convict reaches new levels of insanity. Now he's endangering even more innocent lives. The rubber on his tires has gone, and he's driving only on the rims. Suddenly, the drug-crazed outlaw makes his most daring move.
He decided to do the one thing that literally made my jaw hit the floor. I thought, good Lord, this is going to get bad and ugly right now.
Getting on the freeway the wrong way.
The suspect veers away from the officers and turns onto the motorway, heading the wrong way.
The truck is like a gun. It's like a loaded weapon. And if he points it in the wrong direction, a lot of innocent people are going to get hurt.
The police are determined to stop the madman before he causes a head-on collision. Again, it's Officer Mason who bravely volunteers.
773, can I box him into the wall? 773, can I box him into the wall?
Mason attempts a maneuver that places his own life at risk. He positions his patrol car alongside the truck, and at the right moment, he rams the pickup. Watch again as Mason forces the truck off the road.
He could roll, you know, he could be killed. It could put me in a position where my vehicle rolls and I could be seriously injured or killed.
Look closely as the driver, stunned by the impact, throws up his hands. But Mason keeps his foot on the floor. The truck is sent careering onto the shoulder of the road. Now there's nowhere left to run.
Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Don't you move!
With guns drawn, the troopers take the men into custody. Thanks to the heroic efforts of Officer Tim Mason and the Arizona Highway Patrol, this reckless rampage is over.
Get your hands up!
Orange County, California. Kevin Rubio, nicknamed the Banana Man, is riding his bright yellow bike at the Costa Mesa Speedway. This championship event is extremely dangerous because these high-speed machines don't have brakes. Entering the last lap, the Banana Man is no longer in the lead. He is falling behind and must go all out to regain the top spot. He waits for an opportunity and then makes his move. Watch again as Kevin tries to pass the others and loses control. The motorcycle crashes into the wall at more than 50 miles an hour, launching Kevin into the crowd like a somersaulting human cannonball. Kevin's girlfriend, Suzanne Hallowell, looks on, fearing the worst.
He was on the ground and he wasn't getting up. And just thoughts were going through my mind. Like, is he dead? Is he paralyzed?
A closer look at the collision shows Kevin's legs hitting the wall and flipping him 10 feet into the air. His body bends violently in half as he slams into a solid steel railing.
The way his body moved, it just didn't seem natural at all.
Considering the speed of the crash and the brutal impact, it's a miracle that Kevin survives only with minor injuries.
Had I hit him any other way, that could have been the end of it. If my neck had made contact on the first blow, I could have been dead or paralyzed. Remarkably, Kevin goes on to race again. The video in awe, and I'm thankful that I'm still alive. I know that God was watching out for me that night.
Coming up, a ship full of dynamite explodes, threatening the lives of the people on board. Then, it's hell to pay when a good cat goes bad. And a quiet town is rocked when a fireworks factory is blasted to bits. Brisbane, Australia. Deep beneath the surface of Moreton Bay lies an artificial reef, a spectacular marine life sanctuary made from coral growing on sunken ships. But these tranquil waters are also the site of one of the most horrific maritime disasters ever caught on tape. A century-old barge named the Enterprise is about to be buried at sea. The plan is to sink the 150-foot-long ship by blasting gigantic holes in the steel hull with explosives. It's extremely hazardous, and no one knows that better than Lex Gordon, who's been supervising demolitions for more than 25 years.
The dangers in working with explosives are really quite endless. Arms tore off, bodies tore apart, eyes gone, and you can die.
Lex and his crew carefully rig 6 charges containing 2.5 pounds of plastic explosives deep into the belly of the barge. Then, a siren blares and a red flag is waved, warning boats in the area that there is only 30 seconds until detonation. It's hard to believe, but Lex and his team are staying aboard the ship that they are about to destroy. He says that this way he'll have more control over the demolition. He's also calculated that the blast will not be powerful enough to endanger him or his men. But something goes wrong. A closer look reveals that a terrible mistake has been made. The explosion is more powerful than anyone expected. Lex is blown off his feet. Take another look. Lex is blasted into the air. He crashes down onto the steel deck. Spectators on nearby boats fear the worst.
Someone's down. Someone's down.
Peter, anyone injured?
Lex is alive, but he can't move his legs.
I think his leg's broken.
He thinks his leg's broken.
He's disorientated, and the ship is sinking much faster than he had planned.
Get off the boat as quick as you can.
Within minutes, the doomed vessel will plunge to the bottom of the bay. Michael Lee, the man who ignited the blast, knows that there is little time to get Lex to safety.
I felt there was a danger of Lex possibly dying because he was not able to move at all. He was inching along and the boat was sinking quite rapidly.
Somehow, the crew manages to help Lex off the barge just seconds before the deck is submerged. Lex is raced to hospital.
I was quite conscious when I was taken off the barge. Great deal of pain and trembling, which I assume was shock. A lot of whimpering and whining. That was me who was doing all this.
Less than 5 minutes after the horrific explosion, the bow of the Enterprise vanishes beneath the surface of Moreton Bay.
I felt I'd let everyone down, my co-workers, the project, and particularly I let myself down. I made that mistake.
Lex makes a full recovery, but he will never forget the day he almost went down with a ship. Monte Carlo, Monaco. Sports car enthusiasts from around the world take to the track in their high-powered machines at this exclusive road rally. The Ferrari company showing off a brand new $1 million F50. The race car is rigged with a video camera to record the ride as amateur drivers live the fantasy of being a world champion. But a steady rain is falling and the course is slick. These hazardous conditions would present a challenge even to skilled professionals. With novice drivers behind the wheels, the judges on the raceway find themselves in dangerous situations. There are a few close calls. But then, one of the amateurs struggles to control the high-performance Ferrari. Watch again as the racer careers off course and heads straight for Judge Jocelyn Cipro. She signals the driver to turn right, but he can't steer. The brakes lock up and the car skids. The impact slams Jocelyn down the concrete embankment. Rally officials rush to the scene. One man grabs a fire extinguisher, fearing the car might burst into flames. When rescue crews arrive, they're amazed by what they see. Both Jocelyn and the driver have survived without serious injury. The accident is a terrifying reminder that racing these high-performance sports cars is better left in the hands of professionals. Now, an amazing video classic. Auburn, California. Placer County Animal Control Officer Carl Pritchard is appearing on a local TV show.
This is Pinky. He's a male cat, domestic short hair.
Pritchard is trying to find a new home for this abandoned kitty.
He's a very loving cat.
Problem is, Pinky doesn't want to go.
We got a wildcat on our hands.
Colleen McGuire, the director of Animal Control, moves in and tries to cover the ferocious feline with a box, but the flimsy cardboard can't contain Pinky's rage.
Just sit it over. Get this pull. Yeah, because I'm not going to grab him.
As Pinky fights to break free, Pritchard struggles to keep the animal from injuring itself. But when Pinky goes into a violent spiral up the officer's leg, the cat's safety is no longer his #1 priority. Pinky sinks his claws and teeth into the officer's groin. As Pritchard tries desperately to pry him loose, the cat clamps down even harder.
Of course, I let out this horrible scream. I mean, it was painful. You know, it's a tender area on anybody, male or female. I'm sorry, it is.
Finally, Pritchard manages to remove the animal from his leg. He's rushed to the hospital with 2 deep puncture wounds.
It was rather, a little embarrassing, to have to drop your pants and show this nurse where you were bit. I mean, this cat left a hole in my pants, this big.
But Officer Pritchard wants people to know that this unusual incident is not typical of most pet adoptions.
You got to look at it, from the animal's point of view. This animal felt threatened, and its basic instinct was to get away.
Still to come, 18,000 pounds of fireworks explode, blowing a factory sky high. But now, rescuers put their lives on the line to save a terrified man from a raging river. Black Canyon, Arizona. A raging torrent has trapped 2 men in a pickup truck. Now rescuers must race against time to save them. Their ordeal began when the men tried to tow this stranded van out of the flood. One of the men manages to climb onto the roof of the vehicle. An emergency helicopter arrives and hovers above as rescuers pull the terrified man onto the landing skid. Once he's safely aboard, he's returned to dry land. Now, the rescuers must turn their attention to Joe Rose, who is still inside the truck. But Joe's leg is pinned between the seat and the door of the pickup, and he can't get out. Rescuer Rick Logan has few options.
If I open the door, he's gone. Because he's up through it, the top of the door frame's going to knock him right back in the water.
The men have to act quickly because the rescue chopper's fuel tanks are almost empty.
He says he's got about 15 more minutes of fuel, so he's got enough for one more try.
Joe has been in the freezing water for 3 hours. He's so cold and weak that he can barely hold on. Logan and Sergeant John Hutchinson make one last-ditch effort to save him. Clinging to the roof of the pickup, the 2 men manage to free Joe's legs. Finally, they're able to drag Joe onto the chopper's landing struts. But before they can get him on board, he slips and falls headfirst into the raging current. Watch again. Logan hangs onto one of Joe's legs, desperately trying to keep him from being swept away. Then, Hutchison grabs Joe's arm just as Logan loses his grip. Somehow, the rescuers manage to get him back onto the roof. Suddenly, the frightened man becomes hysterical and grabs hold of Logan's legs.
His grip was superhuman. It was just unreal, and that's all he wanted to do was grab everything.
Hutchinson has no choice. He must force the man to let go.
I had to use several strikes to the chest and the arms to break his grip so I could pull him back on the truck, on top of the truck, so he wouldn't fall off.
The rescuers finally strap Joe into a harness and prepare to airlift him to shore. But he's too afraid to let go of the truck. Then, more trouble. Joe tumbles into the churning water. This time, the harness prevents him from being dragged into the violent river.
When we finally picked him up, I was hoping that he wouldn't fall out of the harness, because we were over the water at that point and there was nothing else we could do.
The helicopter's tanks are almost empty and Joe's life is slipping away. With no time to pull him into the chopper, the crew must drag Joe to dry land. Back on shore, he's rushed to a waiting ambulance. Miraculously, Joe survives, thanks to the men who risked their lives to save his. Peterborough, England. Skydiving instructors give first-time jumpers the thrill of their lives. The students even get a souvenir video shot by this helmet camera that captures every heart-stopping moment. At 13,000 feet, jumpers take the plunge, attached to their instructors. Instructor Mike Smith is strapped to the back of his student, Richard Maynard. He shouts out last-minute advice. They jump, followed closely by Ronnie O'Brien, who is shooting this video. It is a picture-perfect dive, but when Mike pulls the first of 2 ripcords, there's big trouble. The chute snaps upward, and its ropes wrap around Mike's neck, choking his windpipe and rendering him unconscious. The panicked student can't find the emergency ripcord. The men spin out of control, hurtling towards the earth at more than 250 feet a second. Meanwhile, Ronnie, who has been videotaping all this from a few hundred feet above, swoops into action. Knowing that they only have moments to open the second chute, he plunges towards the fellow jumpers. Ronnie grabs for the ripcord, but he can't reach it.
And I was probably about 6 seconds away from the ground.
Down to his last chance, Ronnie grabs and pulls. Mercifully, the chute deploys, and the men are spared. It was only after watching the tape and seeing the rope wrapped tightly around his neck that Mike understood the full magnitude of Ronnie's heroics.
If Ronnie hadn't been there, then both Richard and I would certainly have died.
Now, it's time for an amazing viewer's video. The peaceful county of Devon is home to one of England's largest fireworks factories. But the tranquility is shattered when a tiny spark sets off 18,000 pounds of explosives. 13 workers are still trapped inside the building as the firestorm rages out of control.
It was a bit like a caged tiger that actually you had as a pet, and suddenly you realised that when it got out of the cage and it was hungry and it was angry, that it was turning into a sort of monstrous beast.
Firefighters arrive as more blasts rock the village.
I was actually only about 80 yards away from the building when it literally exploded into pieces.
Panicked residents flee their homes and businesses. Among them is Michael Perry from a neighbouring mill.
People were running for cover, people in hysterics crying, running up the road. There was debris flying over the top of our mill, landing everywhere in the road.
The endless barrage launches blazing fragments of glass and debris in every direction.
People 10 miles away who said that their window panes rattled.
The firefighters must stay clear because there's no way to tell how much gunpowder is yet to explode. They are unable to reach the workers inside.
There's a girlfriend of ours works in there. I think she's dead.
After an intense battle, firefighters managed to bring the inferno under control. As rescue workers dig through the rubble, they discover that miraculously all 13 workers got out alive.
When you consider the power of this blast, it really is a miracle.
Up next, a violent storm destroys a century-old pier and sweeps terrified workers out to sea. Plus, rodeo cowboys hang on for their lives when two wild Mustangs collide head-on. But first, Ellensburg, Washington. The annual rodeo. It's man against beast as teams compete to be the first to catch, then ride a wild horse across the finish line. The bucking Broncos put up a ferocious fight. One is wrestled to the ground, but it quickly regains its footing and kicks violently at the cowboys. Another team struggles to control their horse. In a remarkable display of teamwork and precision timing, the men finally manage to saddle the 1,000-pound stallion. The rider jumps on and heads for the finish line. Now, the race is on for second place, but then two wild horses racing at 30 miles an hour slam into each other with tremendous force. Incredibly, the riders are only stunned by the bone-crushing collision. But what about the horses? Vet Ken McRae fears that one of the animals has broken its neck.
I think most people assume that he was probably killed outright, but that's not the case at all. And fate was on his side.
Amazingly, both horses managed to get to their feet and survive the crash that almost cost them their lives. Flagler Beach, Florida. A half-century-old fishing pier is undergoing reconstruction. 650 feet from the shore, a crane is being used to dismantle the last of the old wooden pilings. But a severe storm is moving in, with waves building in size and power. Back on the pier, the construction workers race to protect their tools and equipment. As the storm gets closer, John Toft senses they're in great danger.
My goal was to secure what we had out there and leave, naturally, as quickly as we possibly could.
The surf swells to 15 feet. Toft and fellow worker John Anderson are attempting to tie down the crane. But suddenly, a massive wave smashes over the pier. It slams the crew with full force. Sweeping Anderson into the churning sea. Anderson, in the dark clothing, is standing behind Toft when the breaker hits. Toft runs to throw him a lifebuoy, but it's too late. Anderson is nowhere to be found. The men search for Anderson, unaware that their own lives are in danger.
Got a count contract for personnel.
Just 10 feet away, a section of the pier sways in the pounding surf. Then suddenly, the towering structure collapses into the raging ocean.
Just lost the end of the pier.
The sound of the waves was deafening, thundering. And there was a large creaking sound, and then it was gone.
Somehow Toft and the other man make it to safety. They dodge the heavy beams that crash down around them. Despite this horrifying close call, the men turn their attention back to their co-worker, who is yet to be seen. Then they spot something in the water. It's John Anderson. And he's alive.
I remember hitting the water and then looking up and staying away from all the extra lumber that's down there. And I can still see there's more of it still coming down.
Anderson struggles to stay afloat as giant sections of wood rain down from the disintegrating pier.
Well, I remember being in the water and looking for something to hold on to. I had a bunch of coats and everything on. I kept going south, and I was heading south hard.
The current sweeps Anderson out of harm's way, allowing him to escape with only minor injuries.
I'll never forget the day we were out there and the power of the ocean. I'm very fortunate and very lucky that we all walked away from there unscathed and unhurt.
Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. A championship football match is tied with just minutes left to play. Just as the clock runs out, Vitor, the home team's star player, scores the game-winning goal. Vitor runs towards the stand to toss his jersey to the frenzied fans, when suddenly the weight of the surging wave of humanity crushes a cement wall. Plunging spectators head first into the concrete below. Look closely as the wall collapses and a flood of bodies come crashing through. Vitor can hardly bear to watch.
I looked into the pit and I saw the people screaming. I just couldn't believe it.
Vitor climbs down to help his injured fans. Many have suffered broken bones and severe lacerations. Although their moment of triumph quickly turned to tragedy, These fans were lucky to escape with their lives. Auckland, New Zealand. It's Jody Hooker's 26th birthday. This year's party is going to be one he'll never forget. Jody, in a protective suit, isn't going to be lighting candles on his cake, he's going to be lighting himself. While 300 of his friends celebrate nearby, Jody, a professional daredevil, prepares himself for the death-defying stunt. He's wearing a special suit and mask designed to shield him from the searing 1,000-degree flames. But tonight, Jody doesn't have the help of his highly trained crew. Instead, he's recruited a group of friends, none of whom have any professional pyrotechnic experience. Just moments before the stunt begins, Jody is drenched with 10 gallons of high-octane fuel. The inexperienced assistant is unaware that he's using too much petrol.
Overkill!
It's showtime. The stunt begins when a car races in. An assistant jumps out and tosses a lighted torch at Jody. The flame streaks across the ground, igniting the daredevil. Watch again, as Jody is instantly engulfed in a blazing fireball. He is stunned by the intense heat. Jody stumbles towards the crowd as they cheer his every move. They think this is all part of the show. But what they don't know is that Jody's protective suit is not working. It's saturated with fuel and he's in danger of burning alive. Blinded by the intense flames and unable to breathe, Jody staggers towards a parked car and another potential explosion. The heat is unbearable. Jody blacks out and falls to the ground. His friends rush in to extinguish the blaze, but they can't put it out. The horrified crowd now realizes that their friend may not live to see another birthday.
Blanket.
Watch as this man's lack of training almost costs him his life. He tries to smother the fire with a blanket, but a sudden burst of flames blasts him in the face. With no time to spare, one of the partygoers races in with a fire extinguisher and douses the blaze. The inferno is out, but has Jody survived? His body lies motionless. The men quickly remove Jody's mask, but he's not moving. Then, a sign of life. Jody takes a few shallow breaths. Somehow, he struggles to his feet.
I was panicking. I was trying to get up, and all I wanted to do was get up and run around and get some air.
Jody says using his friends and not a professional stunt crew nearly cost him his life.
The blanket guys panicked. As you can see in the footage, they kept lifting the blankets and letting the fire breathe and kept igniting the fuel.
On this birthday, Jody Hooker received perhaps the greatest gift of all. A second chance at life. The Spanish countryside. Panic erupts when a bull goes on a rampage. Fearing for their lives, villagers run for cover. Suddenly, the beast charges towards one frightened group. But then, it's over. Watch again. The bull sets its sights on a young boy. But just before it can strike, the creature stumbles and falls. One bystander ducks, while another is steamrolled by the tumbling bull. They slam into the ground. Then, incredibly, they both leap to their feet, unharmed. But now this temperamental tourist is acting a little more sheepish. Undoubtedly embarrassed by his bungled rampage. Northwestern Peru, May 31, 1970. You're witnessing one of the most unusual events ever caught on camera. The The film documents an entire town trying to escape the wrath of a massive 7.7 earthquake. Panicked residents run for their lives to avoid being crushed by falling debris. The quake is so powerful that it brings down part of the Husqvarna mountain.
We were afraid that the mountain would fall on us. Then I look up to see part of it breaking apart and coming down.
The entire town of Jungai is buried in an avalanche of 160 million cubic feet of rock and mud. One of the lucky survivors is this woman.
Thanks to God, the avalanche missed me by less than 10 meters.
This devastating earthquake ranks as one of the worst natural disasters of the Western Hemisphere. It has taken nearly 30 years for the survivors to rebuild their shattered lives. But it will take a lifetime to forget the destructive power of this savage quake. China Lake, California. Air Force fighter jets take to the sky in a training mission. Suddenly, the pilot of an F-18 fires a missile. The heat-seeking rocket soars across the sky and strikes the tail wing of an F-4 Phantom. The disabled aircraft begins to spiral out of control, plunging thousands of feet. Then, without warning, the jet's fuel tanks explode in a horrific blast. The streaking comet of flaming wreckage breaks apart and plummets towards the ground. It slams into the desert floor and erupts in a hellish ball of fire. It's hard to imagine anyone surviving this terrifying disaster. Luckily, no one had to. That's because the F-4 Phantom used in this training exercise was unmanned. But the precision shot that brought it down is an explosive example of the destructive power of this weapon of defense. Indianapolis, Indiana. George Elliott is at the starting line in a race car powered by a jet engine. He throttles up and he's off, rocketing down the asphalt at 260 miles an hour. He pulls the chute, but there's big trouble. George's sons can't believe their eyes.
I saw him go halfway down the track and then a big plume of smoke, and I heard somebody in the audience say, "Oh my God, there's been an accident."
George hits record speed, but he pulls the chute too soon, launching the jet car skyward.
Going 260 miles an hour, it acted like an airplane. It lifted the front end, and the body acted like a wing, and it took off into the air.
The body is sheared off as the vehicle soars 100 feet before violently crashing into the guardrail. George is pinned beneath the mangled wreckage as the jet car screeches to a stop. Emergency personnel rush to the scene and flip the vehicle over. They remove George's helmet and try to pull him from the twisted chassis. Miraculously, he's alive.
The hardest part for me in the whole incident was the fact that two of my sons were at the track with me. I was really fearing for what they were thinking.
Basically, walking away from it is a real miracle.
Life is one thing that you just can't take for granted.
George is lucky to have survived the devastating accident. But this close call was enough to make him retire from the high-risk sport of jet car racing for good.